the Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
It's Wild Weekly on the Fan.
Pass it from Kaprizov, shoots and scores.
Now here to talk about the Minnesota Wild and the NHL. From the Wild, Kevin Falness. And from the Fan, Brandon Mileski.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of KFAN Wild Weekly. A special one today because Minnesota Wild GM Bill Guerin will join us next segment. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, my friend.
How are you?
I'm outstanding.
Did you get able to get some sleep after this late run of 9 o'clock games on the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm not going to complain. I mean, it's worse for the traveling party. It's worse even for the fan base out there. I'm just out there doing my job. There were some late ones. But you know what? For the most part, a couple of good ones and mixed in with a stinker. And actually, 3 of them were probably not terrible. The Calgary game, I think, is one that they want to forget about quickly. But late-night hockey, never terrible, especially when you come out on the winning end. The
one last night against Seattle, that was an interesting game, right? Because clearly Seattle's an expansion franchise. There's not a lot of history between the two teams, right? You don't consider the Seattle Kraken a rival. Yet, after that Zuccarello hit last night, man, the intensity in that game just absolutely ramped up.
Yep, for sure. And you could tell that Kirill Kaprizov certainly didn't like it. The other member of that line was the guy that ended up paying the price, and Danila Yurov. He went right to the aid of Matt Zuccarello, went right after Vince Dunn. I don't know. I didn't like the hit. I've been reprimanded 100 times on social media that it was a clean hit. It did not look shoulder to shoulder to me. But apparently that's what it was because they rescinded the major and made it a 2-minute minor for roughing for going after Danila Yurov. I didn't like it. It didn't look great to me.
You know, we've now reached an age where every one of those big hits like that, whenever you see one like that, we all just assume it's a dirty hit. And I actually give credit to the officials. I don't know what else he's supposed to do on that hit, right? I mean, he hit him with his elbow. Like, I'm sorry, Zuccarello's shorter than most, and he kind of turned into it at the last second.
Boy,
right?
But the way his head just completely got
I know,
rocked.
but it's a clean hit.
Okay.
The referees determined it, so clearly...
Well, yeah, the NHL agrees with you.
Yeah.
At first blush, I thought it was a clean hit, but then when I saw the replay, which they have access to, I saw shoulder on chin, and his head almost went like an owl, like all the way around 360 style. Slight exaggeration, but I didn't like it. But again, I must be in the minority.
Yeah, those hits happen so rarely now that they kind of stand out. And, you know... Yurov comes to his defense. Kaprizov's in there, and from that point on, the rest of that second period, that's the hardest I've ever seen Kaprizov work. He was just absolutely tenacious.
Yeah, Johansson said it in the postgame show in a conversation with Joe O'Donnell after the 4-1 victory. He said that actually might have sparked him a little bit. You hate to see it happen. It's a tough thing to have to rally the troops around, but they did, and it sparked not only Kaprizov but the entire group. It felt like they played on another level to stand up for number 36.
As always, goaltending's been pretty good. We had a little bit of a Wallstead moment in Vancouver where we saw him lose in regulation for the first time. But you look back to last Tuesday's game against Edmonton Oilers when they shut out Edmonton. Last night, giving up 1 goal against Seattle. I mean, these two goalies are, giving them a chance to win in most of these games. They're keeping them in it.
Yeah, Wallsted's going to grab most of the headlines and the spotlight for the numbers that he's put up outside of the loss earlier in this road trip. But Gustafson's been pretty good, too. I was looking at his numbers, 4-1-2 over his last 7 starts, and he loves facing the Seattle Kraken, 4-0 all-time against them, including a couple of shutouts, a good effort last night as well to help lock down the victory. But both goals, I mean, it's what a great luxury to have two good goaltenders playing at a real high level at the same time.
Offensively, they didn't create a ton last night. I mean, they had some good looks. I shouldn't say it that way, but in terms of actually putting the puck in the net, right? 2 of them were empty netters, but Joel Eriksson, Marcus Johansson, the Johansson goal, right? I mean, that was just a smart play by Eriksson.
Just flings it from the half wall.
And that's just recognizing, hey, I've got a guy in front of the net all alone based off of where we just were on the forecheck, right? Like you force the turnover, you already know the defenseman's stuck in the corner, and you can attack right away. And Johansson get a piece of that. It's pretty amazing. Right now, Marcus Johansson is your 3rd leading point getter and has 21 points in 30 games. Given you're paying him $800,000, and let's face it, he's a bit of a lightning rod figure. People weren't excited to see him re-signed, even though it was for the bare minimum this summer. There were people that were upset that were going back to JoJo. And I feel like Johansson and even Bill Guerin, who we'll talk to next, has been vindicated a little bit.
Without a doubt. You wonder where this team would be, not only for what he's doing offensively, because that's great as well, but I think he's bought into what they've been doing on that quote-unquote second line. Johansson, Boldy, and Jules Eriksson. I mean, they've been really phenomenal, and the offense is great, and especially Johansson being the third leading scorer, like you said, that's fantastic. But what they're doing as a line combination in limiting guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, Nathan McKinnon, go right down the list, Logan Cooley. Some of the guys that they've been limiting throughout the course of this season, it's been great.
Other than Volstead, because I think that's a whole other level, but when you look at the young guys and how they perform, I think the most encouraging player might be Danila Yurov.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
A guy at his age that can play center and you're not worried about him in your own zone. You're not worried about him anywhere. He can do well in the faceoff circle. He's sticking up for teammates. He can contribute offensively, and that's only going to increase as he moves along in ages. I've been very encouraged by his performance this year.
And the best part is he's the defensive guy that's responsible for the other two guys that don't want to play any defense. They want to play Sedin tricks with the puck and just pass it around, and Danila Yurov is the guy that's going to be responsible defensively. He's growing by the day. It's great.
We'll talk with Minnesota Wild GM Bill Guerin. He drafted Danila Yurov. We'll talk to him next right here on KFAN Wild Weekly.
Lindgren turned it over. Eriksson read that clearing time. Threw one in front. They score! Marcus Johansson out of midair tipped it home. So the Kraken turned it over. Eriksson threw it in front, and the Wild have a 2-1 lead.
Yeah, the eventual game-winning goal last night as the Wild take down the Seattle Kraken by a score of 4-1. That was Joe O'Donnell, Tom Reed on the call last night right here on The Fan. I'm Brandon Mileski, Kevin Falness with me as well. This is KFAN Wild Weekly. Pleased to be joined by the general manager for your Minnesota Wild, Bill Guerin. Bill, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time. I want to ask you first about how emotionally you've handled this season, because have you been even keel through this 2 months, or have you been riding the roller coaster of the slow start and then the hot November?
No, I've been, I guess, pretty even keeled. I mean, I try to be anyways. I was not on this current road trip, so or this past road trip out west. So it's a little easier when you're not front and center. October was a little difficult to try to figure out. And then, things turned around in November. So it was great. But, we need to find more consistency. We've proven that we can play at a high level, and we just, we need to do that against every type team, not just get up for the big games and then, not show up against the weaker teams. We have to be consistent against everybody.
Good evening, Bill. Great to hear your voice. I'm sure the $1 million question that you've got a ton over the last month and change is, what was the biggest difference going from October to November? Is there anything you can put your finger on, the biggest catalyst for why you guys turned it around so drastically?
Yeah, I think the guys started playing to our identity. I mean, our team's built a certain way. You can't, and there are certain things you just have to do in hockey games in order to win, no matter who you are. And we're no different. For some reason, the guys were not playing to our identity, and it doesn't work. But to their credit, they realized that they got it together, and I think you always just need little reminders here and there, and our guys they're smart guys. They know what works and what doesn't, but they're also human, so you go through ups and downs at times, and just as long as you can set yourself back on course, you'll be okay.
I have to imagine, Bill, one of the hardest parts of being a GM is trying to figure out when young players are going to be ready to actually contribute in the National Hockey League. And you depended on a bunch of them this year, from Volstead to Bouillon to Yurov, Ogren, and Jurchev have gotten some ice. And when you're constructing the roster in the offseason for this upcoming season, how is that a challenge to figure out, hey, are these young guys going to be ready or not? And how do you kind of decipher through whether you're going to go with them or whether you try to supplement your roster somewhere else?
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, it's tough to try to look into the future and see what they're going to be able to do. But, at some point in time, you just have to make a decision. and put your trust in these young kids and let them work through a few things, and just understanding that it could be up and down. It probably won't be smooth sailing the whole way through. So just as long as you understand that going in, you'll be okay. But I think our young guys have really stepped up and played well.
One of those guys I want to ask you about is the Great Wall of St. Paul. I've got a theory. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. Last year, I think, was the best thing that ever happened to Jesper Wallstedt. Going to Iowa, having a tough year, physically, mentally, everything in between, and getting battered and bruised, probably for the first time in his life playing hockey. I think he's had it pretty good up until then, and I think that's the thing that figuratively grabbed him by the shoulders and gave him a shake. I think he came into this year as a brand new person. That's my theory. What does Bill Guerin think?
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with you. I mean, you know what? So many of these young players now, they've never heard no.
Yep.
They've never been cut by a team. They've always been the best. They've always started or been on the first line. And they've never had, any adversity.
Yep.
And things have always gone well for them. So when they have it at this level, it's a real struggle. And, Jesper was one of those guys. He was always elite. He was always the best. And for him to turn pro and to kind of be humbled and things not go perfectly, it was a real mental struggle for him. But you know what? This proves that he's a tough kid, and he can, he fought through, and he's come out the other side. And I think you're right. I think in the end, it's a blessing for him because it toughened him up a bit. And, not everybody has the ability to fight through and come out the other side.
We're talking with Wild GM Bill Guerin. Billy, are there more injuries today than there was back when you played? And if so, do you have any theories as to why, given that the game was more physical back then?
Oh, it sure seems like it is. I mean, you know what? It is. It was more physical, but in kind of a way it's not. I mean, the game today is so much faster and more physically demanding. And I think, there's, the schedule's crazy. I don't, guys are in such good shape, have zero body fat, which I don't think is all that healthy because there's no give in their bodies. The game goes at such a fast pace. Sometimes you just can't get out of the way. They're required to block shots like never before. And, they never really take enough time off in my mind in the off season. They never, these guys are on the ice in July, for God's sakes. And that's just not, I'm not so sure if they give their bodies enough time to really heal. But, and you know what too, back then, we didn't have the comfort of, long-term contracts with no trade clauses and this and that. We had to play. I mean, don't get me wrong. Our guys play hurt. They do. I mean, there are very few guys in that lineup, if any, that don't have something going on. But in earlier generations, you had to play hurt because you had to keep your spot in the lineup. Now today's the players are, and it's better off today. Trust me, I agree with what's going on today in that aspect, that the players are more protected, with their contracts and things like that. I think it's better, but I think there's just a lot that attributes to it.
One guy that I think might be a poster boy for what you're talking about is a guy who had 3 points last night in the win in Seattle, assisted on the game winner, and on a night-in, night-out basis takes a beating in the blue paint. This, to me, seems like the type of guy that you love, in Jules Eriksson-Ek. How much has your appreciation grown for him, being the general manager of this team, from what you knew about him before you came here to what you know about him now, X amount of years later?
Yeah, I mean, everybody would love him on their team, that's for sure. I mean, he's one of the first guys to get asked about all the time by other general managers, and it's a quick no. He does so much for us. he plays the game the right way and he plays it hard. And every team in the league would like Joel Eriksson on their team.
How do you feel about the start of Marcus Johansson? I look back, especially in October, it seemed like he was kind of the one consistent player every single game that was putting points on the board at a time when you guys were struggling a little bit. Sometimes I look back and go, man, this team could have been even in a worse spot without Marcus so far this year.
Yeah, he's had a fantastic year. I love it. I mean, I'm happy for him. He's played great. And at his contract number, it's even better. I mean, yeah, he's been really just fantastic for us this year.
How have you guys done it this year, just besides everything else that you've done well on the ice, including that line of Joel Eriksson, Marcus Johansson, and Matt Boldy, but you guys have gone through the gauntlet when it comes to injuries, and you're dealing with a slew of them now as well, yet you guys continue to get results. How are you getting it done despite the fact that you got guys going in and out of that training room on a pretty continual rotation, it feels like?
Well, we're not the only ones. Remember that. Like, this is going on through the whole league. We're not unique in that category. But you know what? I think, it's kind of all hands on deck. The guys have really, kind of rallied around each other and picked up slack when it needs to be picked up. And it's tough. Like, these guys are going through a big time grind. But they're going through it together. I think that's really important.
You're not only the GM for the Minnesota Wild, you're also the GM for USA Hockey with the Olympics coming up. I'm assuming your workload has pretty much doubled over the last couple of months. I'm assuming you're watching a lot of hockey. When you're looking at the roster and the guys that you're leaning on to talk about what decisions you're going to make, how much of that roster do you think is set, and how many really difficult decisions do you still have to make?
Quite a bit of it's set. But, we use as much time as we possibly can. We don't make final decisions until we have to. But yeah, I've been watching, a ton of hockey. Like I said, I was not on this road trip with the Wild. I was out watching other games and other players for the Olympic team. But it's coming together. I have a lot of good help, and it's nice when you go out and see these games and watch these players, the amount of talent that we have in U.S. foreign players now. It's really amazing.
One of the big talking points when you talk about the Olympics in Milan is the fact that the rink isn't done, and when it will be, it'll be a little smaller than anticipated. What type of feedback or what type of updates are you getting, if anything, about how the construction is going over there?
I mean, honestly, we run into this every single time the Olympics. There's always something that's not done. And, whether it's the rink, the village, the pool, the speed skating, whatever it is, like, there's always something that's, so we don't really worry about this stuff. The league and the Players Association are on top of it. We have faith in those guys, and they'll get it done, and we'll be over there playing.
Back when you played in the Olympics 3 different times, 98, 2002, 2006. How has the mentality of USA Hockey changed from then to now? I know you guys won a silver medal in 2002, but I feel like back then it was just like, hey, we hope we can compete with these teams. Whereas now I feel like the bar has been raised and the expectation is, not gold or bust, but like you're going in hoping to win gold, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's since 96, things have really changed. And then, even more recently, things have really changed because, these young kids now, like that play, like they play internationally so young. They play at the NTDP. They play against, Sweden, Finland, Canada all the time. This is not like new to them. These players all expect to win, as do coaches and management. We're at that level now where that's what we should expect. And that's the way you get better too. You have high expectations and you try to meet them.
Quite a run for international hockey. Not only the Olympics coming up in Milan at the start of next year, at the end of this year, you got the World Juniors coming to Grand Casino Arena and 3M Arena at Mariucci. I have to imagine you're going to be excited for that as well.
Yes, I am. Yeah, it's a great tournament. It really is. It's a lot of fun to see these these future stars playing in. And, I've seen, most of the players on our team, I've seen them play at the World Juniors, and most of the players in the league, you've seen them play at the World Juniors. So, yeah, people want to get a glimpse into the future and see where these guys, come from. It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat to see.
All right, final question for you, Bill. We'll go back to the Minnesota Wild. Basically your entire tenure as a GM, you've been a little handcuffed from a salary cap standpoint. Got a little bit of flexibility now where you can actually make some moves before the trade deadline. How does that feel to kind of have to be unshackled a little bit for the upcoming trade deadline?
Yeah, it feels good. Like it's look, that was all part of the plan. We understood going into it, but now it's over. And like I said, I don't know what's going to be available or what's going to happen, but if there are things going on, we can at least be in the game.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Bill.
Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You
bet.
bet.
All right, Bill Guerin, Minnesota Wild GM. That's it for us tonight, Kevin. We're back home for the next 4 games.
Sweet home.
We got the Dallas Stars Thursday night.
Yep, I know. They've been tough on this Minnesota Wild team. I think I went back and looked 10-0-5 against the Wild since 2021. So they've been a beast. You look at the standings, the Avalanche are number 1 in the Central. The Dallas Stars are right up there. They're having a heck of a year. Jake Ottinger's leading the way. Pre-game at 6:45 Thursday. Puck drops just after 7.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin Falness. Thanks to Bill Guerin for joining us. Thank you, listeners, for listening tonight. We'll talk to you next week on KFAN Wild Weekly.
The best place to go for all your Minnesota Wild audio needs is the official Minnesota Wild podcast presented by Acrisure. Everything Minnesota Wild related, including highlights, press conferences, players, coaches, general managers, and more. It's available on the official Minnesota Wild podcast presented by Acrisure. It's all just a click away at wild.com/podcast.